Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, we hope you like what you hear. So, our podcast is for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. Talk about a wide range of topics, but we generally focus on mindset, personal accountability, controlling our emotions, making left brain, fact based, logical decisions, and trying to show leadership and making the world a better place by how we interact with people. So, glad to have you here. Today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 ways to deal with rejection. And we think this is one of the most important attributes that any successful person has. So, success. Success is a word we throw around a lot. How do you judge success? And it's very subjective because success to one person could be very different to what success means to another person. For you, is it a financial goal? Do you have, I want to have X amount of dollars in the bank or an X amount of net worth by a certain point in my life? Is it a health metric? I want to lose weight or run a mile in this amount of time or lift this much weight specifically. Is it personal satisfaction? I want a happy life. I want good relationships. I want et cetera, et cetera. Whatever it is, it's okay. Like you get to define what success is for you. But one thing everything has in common around success is you're going to be met with failure and rejection on your path to success. And when you think about it, the most successful people are the ones that push past that and don't let it stop them from trying to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. So the most successful people, and we all know successful people in however we define success. They're not the smartest people. So like the most successful people aren't like the highest intelligence that have the highest intelligence. Not necessarily the hardest workers. And they're not necessarily the ones who start on third base. So they're born into a good family. They've got lots of money and resources. Sometimes those people are successful. Sometimes they're not successful. But when you look, all successful people have one thing in common, and that is they encountered failure, they encountered rejection, and they pushed past those things to continue working towards their goals. So that's what we're focused on today, is giving you some tips to help you develop the mindset so that you can move past rejection when you inevitably encounter it and continue to achieve your goals. And I think from our perspective, this is one of the biggest challenges for young people in the world is they have faced hardships and they haven't been given or trained with the coping skills to push past those. So they face one rejection and they give up. And I'm speaking very broad terms. I get it, but I don't think I'm wrong here. When you look at the current situation around dating and relationships with young people, I hear a lot about how hard it is to meet people and how difficult it is to establish social connections. Well, that's even doubly true if you're afraid to pick up the phone and talk to people, or if you're afraid to start talking to people when you're out somewhere. And so to do that, you've got to put yourself out there and face rejection. And newsflash, you're going to get rejected every once in a while. I jokingly say a lot, you know how I got my wife to marry me is I asked her. And that doesn't sound like much, but it's more than a lot of people will do. And so you've got to be willing to initiate conversations. You've got to be willing to ask questions. You've got to be willing to ask for what you want and be prepared to be told no by some people, maybe told no a lot. So we've got some examples to go through before we get to our 5 tips of people who faced tons of rejection, refused to let it stop them, and wound up in a really good spot. So the first one is actually Colonel Sanders, who founded and started Kentucky Fried Chicken. So Colonel Sanders founded Kentucky Fried Chicken and started it when he was in his 60s. So he had retired and he got his first Social Security check and he realized, oh, hey, I can't live on this. This is not enough money for me to continue living my life. I've got to figure out another way to make some money to support my family and support myself. And so the only thing he had that made sense to him that was any good was this recipe for chicken. And so he went around and started knocking on doors to restaurants and said, hey, I will license you this recipe for chicken. You pay me X, whatever, 5 cents a piece for every piece of chicken you sell. And the restaurants were like, yeah, we're all set. We've got our own recipe for chicken. We don't really need yours. I don't know who you are, but we're all set. Thank you very much. So he did that process hundreds and hundreds of times. He was rejected hundreds and hundreds of times until he finally got a restaurant in Salt Lake City, Utah to agree to a license agreement with him on this chicken. And so from there, it built to what it is now. So where would we be if Colonel Sanders had said, you know what? I guess people just want my chicken. I'm done. I'm out of here. He wouldn't have been very happy. He would not have built what he built, and we would be deprived of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Oh my gosh, can you imagine a world without Kentucky Fried Chicken? What a terrible place to live. So kudos to Colonel Sanders for pushing through. Next example is Sylvester Stallone. He had the script for Rocky, which he wrote. And it's actually very interesting. You should watch an ESPN 30 for 30 called The Real Rocky about a guy named Chuck Wepner, who was a boxer whose life has a remarkably similar trajectory to Rocky's. But either way, Sylvester Stallone wrote the movie. He knew that he had a winner, but he also knew that it was his one shot to become an actor. So if he tied himself to the film and refused to sell the film unless he could play the lead role, that was his ticket into Hollywood. And so he was rejected over and over again. People loved the script. Studios loved the script, but they didn't want, this short Italian guy with a funny looking face who talked weird to play the lead role. And so they made him all sorts of offers to buy the movie, but he was not going to be the star of the movie. And he refused. He held fast and refused to do a deal unless he could star in the movie. So much so that his electricity was turned off a couple weeks before he signed the deal for Rocky because he was out of money. And he had actually sold his dog, who was actually the bulldog that appears in the movie. And after he sold the movie, he went and bought his dog back with the proceeds from the movie. So, he built that into a franchise. Sylvester Stallone has made a great career out of essentially playing two guys, Rocky and Rambo. And, he's a multi-millionaire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he was rejected over and over and over again, refused to let it stop him, and kept pushing through. Last example we've got is J.K. Rowling. So J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, divorced, suicidal, depressed, broke, and she wrote this book, this Harry Potter book, and she took it around to publishing houses and was literally told, no, get out of our office. This will never sell. No one's going to read this garbage. Multiple times. I think it was over 10, if I remember right, until she finally got a publisher to publish her book. And the rest is history. It's one of the best-selling book series of all time. Might be the best-selling book series of all time. And where would she be if she had just said, nope, I guess I wrote crappy stuff and nobody wants to read it. These publishers know everything. They're right. I'm going to listen to them and stop. I'm just not going to try anymore. So all successful people all face tons of rejection, tons of hardship, refuse to let it stop them, and wound up in a really good spot. They were rewarded for their perseverance and for their ideas. So all sounds great, but how do you develop that mental strength and mental toughness? We were fortunate so we played baseball from the time we were 3 years old, and baseball is a sport that's filled with failure. So if you are a really good hitter in baseball, call it the professional level, you bat 300. And what that means is you fail at your job 7 out of 10 times. The guy for the Mets, Juan Soto, he just signed a deal for a 15-year deal worth over $700 million. So they're paying that guy $700 million over 15 years to fail at his job 7 out of 10 times. Takes kind of a unique mindset to be involved in those types of situations and have the confidence to go up over and over and over again and say, you know what? I know the last 5 times I've been up here, I haven't even come close to hitting the ball. I couldn't have touched it with a guitar when I'm up here at the plate, but I'm going to get this done this time. So we were fortunate that being in that world, we developed coping skills because you just have to. As a pitcher, if I threw a pitch and somebody hit it 450 feet, that's pretty instantaneous feedback that you failed. And they toss you another ball while that guy circles the bases, and you've got about 30 seconds to compose yourself and go after the next guy. And if you don't get it done, there's 9 or 10 other pitchers on the team, and the coach will just take the ball from you, give it to somebody else, and you're out of the game. So you don't have a choice to wallow in your pity and feel sorry for yourself and cry in your beer. You've got to learn the lessons that you gleaned from your last failure and apply them in the future situations and try to be successful. So we were fortunate that we developed the coping skills through sports, and that works for us. But we wanted to give some concrete ways, concrete examples of how You can mentally process rejection, so you become resilient, you become mentally tough, you can push through the inevitable failures and rejections and continue to work towards whatever your goal is. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's professional, maybe it's personal, maybe it's health, whatever it is. You're going to encounter resistance, you're going to encounter rejection, and you've got to be able to deal with it and push forward if you're going to get to your goals. The first tip is to reframe rejection as redirection. So the way to do that is say, okay, I did not get rejected. I was told, here are my objections. And now I have to go back and figure out solutions to those objections from the customer, from the person I'm interested in, from whatever it is that you're pursuing. So you've got to look at it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Ask yourself, what could I do differently next time? How could I change my pitch? How could I change my offering? How could I change my product? How could I change my approach so that I'm successful next time? That shift in your mental perspective will help you see rejection as a stepping stone rather than a setback. And it's tough, like it's not an easy thing to do, but that's a good way to process it and think about it differently. Because look, you've already got the rejection. You've already been told no. You've already been told no thanks. We don't validate. Get out of the office, whatever the case may be. You can do what you will with that. And if you let it stop you, if you focus on that, if you allow it to hold you back, it will. And if you slough it off and you push through it, you've got a much higher chance of success than if you don't. So that's tip one, reframe rejection as redirection. Tip two, focus on what you can control. So concentrate on actions you can take. Improve, like we just talked about, improve your pitch, refine your product, expand your network. Let go of what's out of your hands. You're going to have naysayers all the time. You know, Teddy Roosevelt gave a speech talking about the man in the arena. And the speech essentially said the people that are actually doing things and actually trying to make a difference in the world should not stop and listen to criticisms from people who are sitting in the stands watching them do the work. Those people in the stands don't know what you're going through. They don't have the experience that you have. They don't have the perspective that you have. Don't let that negative energy stop you from pursuing or pushing towards your goals. So again, in an athletic perspective, you know, when you're on the road, we have people screaming at us. I was a closer for 2 years, and the bullpen where you warm up to go in the game is always out by the stands. And there was always people literally 5 feet from me screaming at me, calling me names, telling me I was going to fail, making personal attacks, all of those things. You got to learn to block that out, ignore it. Those people don't matter. So usually some drunk college guy or guys that were doing it, and that was their entertainment for the day. Fine, I got a job to do. It's my job to go in and get these outs, and I'm going to focus on that. I'm not going to listen to what they say because I had control over what happened when I was on the field. I didn't have control over the drunk frat guy screaming things at me, so I ignored him. Got to learn to do that. Focus on what you can control. That will give you so much more mental clarity, and it will force you to work on the things that can actually impact your success or failure. So that one's terribly important. Step 3, practice gratitude. This one's a little bit tangential, but absolutely appropriate. So each day, write down or say out loud 3 things you're grateful for, even if they seem small. Maybe it's the nice weather that you're experiencing. Maybe it's someone made a nice comment to you when you were out on a walk or in a store or whatever the case may be. Maybe you got a new shirt that you really like and you're grateful to have that shirt. It doesn't need to be huge things. It can be huge things, but it doesn't need to be huge things. But if you every day refocus on pulling up from out of your problems and your concerns and all the things you're worried about and focusing on things that are good in your life and being grateful for the good things you have in your life, it will help you stay mentally strong when the inevitable challenges pop up. Number 4 is to set micro goals. So set small, achievable tasks to keep yourself moving forward. Completing these tasks builds momentum and keeps your confidence intact even after you're rejected. So let's just say from a weight loss perspective, you want to lose 50 pounds. Don't say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Say, this week, I'm going to lose 3 pounds. And then you lose 3 pounds that week. The next week, you say you're going to lose 3 pounds. You lose 3 pounds. The third week, you say, I'm going to lose 3 pounds. You lose 1 pound. Okay, rejection, failure, it's happened. But you're now 7 pounds towards your 50 pounds goal. You're over 10% of the way, because 10% of 50 is 5. And you've got some mental ammunition to tell yourself, hey, I'm all right. I'm making progress. This wasn't my week. Didn't go as good as the other weeks did. but I'm doing good work here and I'm going to get to where I want to be. It can be the same thing for saving money. It can be the same thing for building your career. It can be the same thing in a relationship. Maybe you're trying to get someone to go out on a date with you and they finally give you their number so that you can call and talk to them. That's progress. That's a step. Maybe before she was, combing her hair or she was busy or whatever the case may be. But those little micro goals can really be helpful to keep you moving forward and pursuing your overall goal, your larger goal. So having those little milestones that you can celebrate, those are great for mental toughness and mental strength. Number 5, lean on your support system. So share your experiences or your challenges with a friend, a mentor, or someone you work with. There's somebody out there that you can talk to about stuff and kind of problem solve. Sometimes just having those conversations will make you think about things in a different way, and it will lead you to solutions to problems or challenges that you've been stuck on. So talking things through with people who understand what you're trying to accomplish or are trying to accomplish the same things you are is super helpful. That was one of the unique things about being a pitcher on a baseball team. So only one guy gets to pitch at a time, but pitching is a very natural motion. So if you throw a lot one day, it takes several days for your body to recover so that you're able to throw again in a game. So you have more than one pitcher. You typically have between 10 and 12 pitchers on the team. Only one of you gets to pitch at a time. Clearly, you want to be the guy pitching. Otherwise, why would you be there? If you're not competitive and it doesn't matter to you, why would you be there? However, when I was playing, we were trying to sign a professional contract. I was a Division I baseball player. And so you wanted scouts to come to your games. Scouts came to watch good teams. You wanted your team to be good, so you wanted your teammates to be good so that scouts would come and watch and they'd see you when they were there. You just wanted to be a little bit better than your teammates. So if you saw your teammate struggling, even though he was competing with you for the same job, you would help him. Hey, I noticed you're separating your hands a little early in your windup. It looks like you're off balance. You're tipping your pitches in your windup. Whatever the case may be, when you saw those things, you would help your teammate, even though he was competing for you for the same job that you do. So it's a very unique environment. It's something I got very comfortable with very early. But leaning on those guys knew what I was going through because they were going through it too. They were the only people you could talk to about what was going on because they were the only ones that understood it the same way you understood it. So having a support system in place and leaning on that support system is tremendously important, tremendously helpful. So those are our 5 tips. If you incorporate those tips consistently in your world, it'll help you build resilience and maintain optimism and focus in the face of challenges and setbacks and rejections. So hope you found those helpful. They've been useful for us. They're things that we practice on a regular basis. They're very useful and have helped us develop the mental toughness that have allowed us to achieve what we've achieved in our life. And we're passing those tips on to you in the hopes that you're able to do the same thing in whatever it is that you're pursuing for your goals. So don't forget to head over to our website, guys. James puts it up over here every day, saltygingertalk.com. We've got all of our podcast episodes available on our website. We publish a newsletter every weekday that you can subscribe to on our website. And we've got links to all of our social media content on our website as well. So also, if you could like, share, subscribe, comment on our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on, it's tremendously helpful for us. We sure appreciate the support. Everybody have a great week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, guys.